Frozen in shock, millionaire reunites with ex-wife twins at airport. You won't believe your eyes. The bustling sound of the airport, filled with laughter and farewells, turned into a haunting silence as the crowd's gaze fixed on a scene too wild to fathom. A well-dressed millionaire stood frozen in disbelief, staring at his ex-wife as she emerged from the terminal, twins trailing behind her. It felt like a movie plot twist, the kind that knocks the wind out of you, a breathless moment no one could forget. The air shimmered with tension, as eyes darted between the three, aching for answers, craving to understand this shocking reunion. The millionaire's heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing like a drum in the stifled air. He swayed slightly, his hands trembling like leaves in a fierce wind. She looked just as stunning as he remembered, her smile a fragile facade hiding years of buried emotions. What had brought her back after all these years? The twins, their innocent faces shimmering with curiosity, clung to her coat, completely unaware of the storm brewing around them. It felt like time had folded in on itself. How could it be that the love he once lost was now standing right in front of him, breathing, laughing, and, worst of all, surrounded by the children they never got to raise together? A murmur erupted among the onlookers. Is that really him? What is going on? Their whispers sliced through the air, each one sharp as a knife, as they leaned in closer, trying to catch every piece of this unfolding drama. Their faces were lit with wonderment and disbelief, a palpable mix of shock and judgment evident in every furrowed brow and wide-eyed stare. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just as the tension peaked, the millionaire took a step forward, heart racing. Why are you here? He asked, voice strained, barely above a whisper, yet it felt loud enough to echo in the silence. The ex-wife hesitated, her eyes flickering to the twins, then back to him, searching for a truth unsaid. What secrets lay buried beneath the surface? What had turned their fairy tale into a drama so thick it felt suffocating? The crowd held its breath, waiting for a revelation, their anticipation ballooning to an unbearable pressure. Would she shatter the silence with a simple explanation or plunge them all into deeper questions? The air was electric, and the future hung dangerously in the balance. Her lips parted slightly, the words hovering just on the edge of release, when the atmosphere shifted violently. A loud crash burst through the air. Someone had dropped their luggage, sending a cascading series of thuds echoing across the concourse. The spell was broken, and the crowd's tension fractured as people turned to look at the source of the noise. A collective gasp erupted, but the millionaire's focus remained anchored on her, desperate for answers. Please, just tell me, he implored, his voice barely above a whisper in the rising chaos. The slightest tremor in her stance hinted at the storm churning within her. It's complicated, and she hesitated, swallowing hard as she searched for the right words. The twins, mirroring her anxiety, tugged at her coat, instinctively sensing the heaviness enveloping their mother. Their small laughter echoed innocently around them, juxtaposed against the tense silence that had grown like a chasm. The little girl adjusted her pink beanie, tilting her head, eyes wide with confusion. The boy's small hand gripped his mother's tightly, a protective gesture, unknowingly grounding both her and their father. That's just it, the millionaire persisted, urgency threading through his tone. We can't be just a moment. Not after everything. Another voice broke through the crowd, a middle-aged man in a sports jacket, brow furrowed, yet an air of familiarity surrounded him. Linda. Is this true? His gaze darted between the family trio and the millionaire, suspicion flaring. Was it jealousy? Anger? The man advanced toward them, and the crowd split slightly to accommodate his forwardness, murmuring amongst themselves in hushed tones, eager to uncover this tangled tale. Stay out of this. The millionaire barked instinctively, feeling another layer of rage bubble beneath the surface. Linda's eyes widened at the confrontation. He has a right to know. She blurted defensively, posting herself between her ex-husband and the stranger, hands raised. Why now? The millionaire's voice cracked as one steely resolve evaporating. After all these years, why come back? And bring them? Linda's gaze stung with unshed tears, revealing the depth of emotions flooding through her. Because I have no choice. They need to know their father. A murmur erupted in the crowd, fingers pointed, eyebrows raised. The drama deepened, speculation ricocheting through the functionally morbid interest of onlookers. Your father? The stranger interjected with disbelief. I thought we agreed to keep him out of their lives. A smirk twisted his mouth, mischief dancing in his eyes. The millionaire's pulse raced, chest tightening. Who was this man to dictate the world he'd been absent from? Everything felt like it was spinning wildly, chaos balancing on a knife's edge. You agreed? What do you mean? Stop. Don't do this here, Linda pleaded softly, anguish lacing her voice, glancing warily at the twins, who now eyed their parents with a mixture of confusion and mounting concern. Then it hit him like a freight train, the final pieces of the puzzle slamming together in his mind. What else have you kept from me? He shouted, the challenge resonating off the walls, freezing the spectators in a moment of shared horror. A pained silence hung in the air as everyone awaited Linda's response. The tension was suffocating, ticking like a bomb ready to explode. Her eyes flared with a mixture of fear and defiance, but just as she opened her mouth, a siren blared in the distance. Tell me the truth or I'll find out, he pressed, feeling an urgency that made his throat burn. The stakes had shifted, and now, with uncertainty swirling around them, all eyes hung on her fragile form, ready to unravel secrets no one was prepared for. But as she stood, trembling, ready to break the silence, everything shattered as an unexpected figure emerged from the crowd, their presence sending shockwaves through the tense atmosphere. Mom! Look out! The little boy screamed. What danger lurked just beyond the surface, ready to crash through their fragile reunion, turn their lives upside down? The answer was closer than any of them knew, and the next seconds would rewrite everything they thought they understood. The crowd surged forward, a tide of gasps and whispers, as the figure stepped fully into view. A man, tall and imposing, dressed in black leather that seemed to absorb the chaos around him. His eyes, cold and piercing, locked onto Linda. Dad! The little boy shouted, the innocence in his voice drowned out by the ensuing murmur of the crowd. She staggered back, as if struck, her face paling. Jake! What are you doing here? Panic twisted her words, urgency radiating from her. The tension in the air thickened, heavy and oppressive, as the man's lips curled into a concerning smile. What a reunion, right? Here I thought you'd hide from me forever, he taunted, stepping closer, closing the distance with each casual stride, like a predator stalking its prey. The twins held on to their mother's coat tighter, eyes darting between their parents with expressions of confusion and fear they didn't fully understand. Stay away from them. The millionaire snarled, taking a protective step forward. Instinct flooded his veins, he felt a primal need to shield Linda and the children from whatever this man was about to unleash. Jake chuckled, waving a dismissive hand. Come now, we both know the kids deserve to know their real father. An underlying tension broke loose within the crowd, whispers clashing against one another, accusations brewing just beneath the surface. Linda's breathing quickened, a sharp contrast to the cool composure Jake tried to maintain. What do you mean? She managed, voice trembling, eyes darting to the millionaire, who was a molten mix of fury and confusion. I've always been here, Linda. They've just been used to your fairy tale version of a father. It's time they see reality, he said, with an unsettling grin. He turned to the twins, squatting to their level, eyes glinting with a dangerous charm. Hi there, kiddos. I'm your dad. You're really, really fun dad. The little girl's eyebrows knitted together, while her brother instinctively moved closer to Linda, sensing the impending shift. Their innocence made the scene more striking, like lambs caught in a lioness' den. "Don't talk to them," Linda cried out, her voice rising as desperation seeped into every word. "You don't get to come back and play daddy now." "Why not? You're the one who decided to keep me out of their lives. I have just as much right to be here as he does." Jake shot back, motioning with his chin toward the millionaire, whose fists were clenched at his sides, jaw grinding against unrestrained rage. "Don't bring him into this," Linda hissed, taking a step forward as if to reclaim her independence from both men, her children shielded in her shadow. But the confrontation escalated as Jake threw his hands up in surrender, laughter escaping his lips like a chilling echo. "Oh, but it's too late for that, Linda. The truth has a way of coming out, and you've buried it deep for far too long." The crowd vibrated with excitement and horror as words began to fly, each moment amplifying the stakes. The unanswered questions loomed like storm clouds overhead, waiting to burst. What secret had Linda hidden? What truth would unravel when those delicate threads finally snapped? The air was electric, every spectator leaning in slightly, breaths held in anticipation of chaos. "Enough," the millionaire finally spat out, voice steady but low, the tension coiling in his stomach as he faced Jake. "You want to play games? Not here. Not now." The finality of his words crashed down like a gavel in a silent courtroom. Each heartbeat thudded louder as everyone waited, a standoff suspended in time. The intensity simmered, but the truth remained out of reach. And just as the impending storm felt inevitable, another figure emerged, breaking through the crowd, a woman, flustered, determination lighting her features. "What have you done?" she shouted, eyes locked onto Jake, cutting through the palpable tension. Had they stepped into a web of lies woven tightly within the fabric of their lives? Secrets were stitched too many in strands that might finally unravel, or snap. What would happen next? The lioness' roar echoed once again, and a reckoning was close. The woman pushed her way through the throng, her face tight with urgency. "Jake! What are you doing here?" Panic flared in her voice, making the hairs on the back of Linda's neck stand on end. Jake straightened, the playful facade dropping away. "You should have stayed out of this, Sarah," he dismissed, but his tone now was sharp, cutting. "Stay away from my family," Sarah declared, eyes blazing as she met Jake's icy stare. Each word landed like stones in a pit of fear. The crowd murmured, shifting uncertainly as whispers flitted through the air. People turned to see the reunion play out, their expressions ranging from disbelief to morbid curiosity. Couples drew their children closer, an instinctive reaction to the brewing confrontation. Linda's heart raced as adrenaline spiked through her. What other secrets lurked beneath the surface? Her breath hitched, and she felt the twins clutch her tightly, their small fingers digging into her coat as though it were their only tether to safety. "Jake, this isn't the place. You can't just waltz back in here after all this time." He stepped even closer, the predator returning to hunt. "And why not? You think I'm just going to let you raise them in your fantasy? They deserve more than your lies and control." The accusation sounded hollow, echoing the chaos within as much as around him. "Lies?" Linda spat back, a surge of anger and desperation giving her strength. "You're the ones who betrayed us. I did what I had to do to protect them. Children need fathers, Linda. They need to know the truth." Jake relented, his voice low but filled with a strange intensity that sent chills skittering down her spine. In that moment, the crowd seemed to sense the shift as jaws dropped in collective shock, whispers rising like smoke. Each spectator held their breath, caught in the snare of emotional upheaval. "Don't listen to him," the millionaire exclaimed, stepping in closer to shield Linda and the twins. "This is all a game to him. You know that." His gaze narrowed at Jake, a venomous threat swirling in the air. Jake let out a humorless laugh. "Oh, come off it. You think you're some kind of hero? You're just a stand-in." And the children they'll see you for what you really are, he snapped, eyes drilling into Linda's. Gauging her reaction, Linda's knees felt weak, and she fought to stay grounded. A part of her wanted to flee, to whisk the twins away from this terrible scene. But she couldn't move. Instead, she turned to her children, reading chaos and confusion in their eyes. "Don't worry, everything will be okay," she whispered softly, squeezing their hands. The little girl's pout deepened. "Mom, is he really our dad?" she asked, voice trembling like a fragile leaf. Jake's smile broadened, and he crouched lower, his cold gaze never leaving Linda. "Yes, he is, and you two deserve to know me." "Isn't that right? I said stay away." The millionaire finally barked. His voice rang like a bell of clarity, snapping everyone back to the moment. But silence gripped the crowd like a vice. Just as things seemed destined to erupt into chaos, Sarah stepped closer, eyes darting back to Linda. "You can't let him do this. You know he'll only hurt them." Crowd tensions flared anew, and uncertainty hovered like a thick fog. Each second stretched painfully, filled with unsaid words and unresolved anger. And then, just as the atmosphere seemed ready to burst, the unmistakable sound of sirens wailed in the distance, turning heads in a discordant symphony. "What have you brought upon us, Jake?" Sarah asked, dread creeping into her voice as her eyes widened. The realization began to settle over the crowd, thickening the air with fear. Panic rippled back through the bystanders. "What now?" a voice from the edges called out, shattering the tension as all eyes turned back to Jake. The answer hung heavily between them as the sirens grew louder, and a new wave of dread surfaced. What were they in for now? What lines had been crossed, and what was about to unfold? The stage was set for confrontation, but in a game of truth and lies, which one would ultimately prevail? The sirens blared closer, cutting through the thick tension thrumming in the air. Faces twisted in anxiety, some turning pale, others lighting with a fire of defiance. Sarah's eyes locked onto Jake, a blend of anger and fear on her face. "What have you done?" she demanded, voice quaking but resolute. Jake shrugged, a casual facade masking an inner storm. "Nothing that can't be handled." The crowd around them shifted, every whisper becoming a ripple of nervous energy. Linda could feel the twins pulling at her, confusion and terror brewing in their young hearts. "Jake, stop this!" she cried, desperation cracking her voice. "Think of the kids." The thought of police involvement made her insides twist like a knot, and she had no idea where this was all headed. "They need to know who their real father is," Jake argued, his gaze narrowing, teeth gritted in defiance. "I'm not going to hide any longer." Linda's pulse throbbed in her temples. "What about your past? The danger you brought with you?" Panic seeped into her voice. The sirens loomed closer, their wailing becoming a haunting backdrop to the chaos unfurling before her. Jake smirked, the coldness in his eyes slicing through her like a blade. "You think they're safe from the truth? I'll protect them better than you ever could, and it starts here." In that moment, just as tension reached its peak, police cars screeched to a halt nearby, red and blue lights flashing. Authority moved in, officers jumping out, radios crackling. They took stock of the scene, eyes scanning over the gathering crowd. "Move away from him," an officer barked, stepping toward Jake as the atmosphere rippled with fresh fear. Whispers morphed into gasps as people parted like the Red Sea, creating a path between the officers and the confrontation. Jake's demeanor shifted slightly, the bravado halting. He straightened, arms crossing, yet Linda could see the tension coil in his shoulders. "Officer," Jake started, but the name felt like poison on his tongue. "Step aside, ma'am," the officer ordered Linda, gesturing her to the side as he approached Jake. The twins clung to her, fear illuminating their wide eyes. "Mom! What's happening?" The little boy squeaked, his voice barely audible over the chaos. "Just stay close," she whispered, holding them tightly. She wished she could explain it all, but how? "Jake Hartley, "You're under suspicion of," the officer began, but Jake interrupted. "I'm not doing anything, officer. This is my family." That word family. It hung in the air like a loaded gun, a promise unfulfilled. Family? Is that what you're calling it while you put your children at risk? The officer frowned, shifting his gaze from Jake to the crowd. "We need to keep the peace here. People are frightened. They should be frightened of what he has done." Sarah shouted, stepping up behind Linda, the resolve radiating from her like fire. "He is here to tear this family apart." "Enough." The officer snapped, his face stony, yet a flicker of uncertainty flashed through his eyes as he processed the heated scene. Linda's heart raced, the weight of the situation was almost unbearable. As the tension rippled again, the sirens wailed once more, drowning out their words. Linda suddenly realized, they were teetering on a precipice. One wrong move, one harsh word could tip them all into chaos. "I need to protect my children," she thought, fear gripping her. But could she trust her instincts? And as that question settled in the air like a brewing storm, something deep within Jake shifted. His mask slipped, revealing a glimpse of desperation that sent shivers up her spine. Was he more dangerous than she ever thought? The next moment felt heavy with unspoken threats. The police stood firm, shadows creeping across the cracked pavement, leaving Linda with one pressing question echoing in her mind. In a world filled with lies and half-truths, how far would she go to shield her twins from the truth? The air thickened with uncertainty, each passing second feeling like an eternity. Linda's grip tightened on the twins, their small bodies trembling against her side. Jake's expression was a whirlwind defiance, surfacing one moment, desperation the next. Despite the four officers encroaching on him, he held his ground, eyeing them with a mixture of threat and anticipation. "Jake, please." Linda pleaded, her voice breaking. "Just talk to the police. Don't make this worse." But Jake's gaze shifted, darting towards the crowd. The knots of people murmured among themselves, eyes filled with a mix of shock and morbid curiosity. He was still wrestling for power in a moment where control was slipping away. Sarah's furious stare turned toward Linda, and the anger twisted inside her too. "Just tell them the truth, Jake," she yelled, the words raw with emotion. "It's what you owe them." Before Jake could respond, another officer edged closer, hands firmly gripping his belt. "Mr. Hartley, we've had complaints that you've been threatening individuals. You need to calm down and answer our questions." "Threatening? Me?" Jake barked a laugh, but it came out hollow, a sound devoid of real amusement. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." With that, a chilling stillness followed. A dozen eyes were locked on him, and Linda felt her heart race faster. What did he mean? She didn't want to think of the implications. The twins looked up at her, confusion pooling in their innocent eyes. Could they sense the danger lurking beneath the surface? "Mom," the little girl whispered, her voice shaking. "Nothing's going to happen, sweetie. Just stay close," Linda managed to say, though her own pulse was echoing the tension that wrapped around them like a vice. Suddenly, Jake turned sharply, as if the thought had just struck him. "And you think they're safe here? Safe from the truth? You want to shelter them from who I really am?" He laughed again, this time with more menace, eyes glimmering with an unsettling resolve. "I will show them everything. You can't keep them in the dark forever." The officer took a step closer, concern creeping into his features. "Sir, we need you to step away from the crowd." Jake's bravado faltered for just a moment, but then surged back, like a tide crashing relentlessly against the shore. "You think you can just take me away? Not until I get my say." The words hung like a knife poised to drop. Time froze as tension pulsated in the air. Each face in the crowd was a mosaic of fear, curiosity, and determination, all tangled together. Then, as if trying to quell the turmoil, the lead officer stepped between Jake and Linda, pointing authority at him. "Step back now, or we will take action." In that split second, the crowd gasped, and Linda felt their collective breath catch. She glanced at Jake's face, the mask slipping once more, revealing a man terrified of being cornered, a man who had secrets darker than she thought. Her heart ached for him, but there was no room for sympathy in this moment. "Jake, don't!" she shouted over the rising chaos, knowing that every second counted. His expression faltered, and for a heartbeat, vulnerability flickered in his eyes. Then it vanished, replaced with an alarming resolve. "This isn't over," he hissed, right before the sound of handcuffs clinking filled the air. In a flash, he made a sudden movement, quick, unexpected. Linda felt her breath hitch. Something was about to break. Before she could react, he lunged. The crowd gasped, and her children squeezed her tighter, their frightened eyes wide with shock. "Jake!" she cried out, panic rising. She could only watch as the first officer reached out to grab him, but the chaos erupted. People screamed, and the once steady rhythm of the crowd fractured into a frantic scramble. Where would this end? What would Jake do next? The sirens only grew louder, but in that moment, Linda felt the world drop away, consumed by uncertainty. "Just keep them safe," Jake shouted desperately as he turned to Linda one last time before chaos enveloped him, and she realized, the truth was just the tip of a dark iceberg beneath, waiting to resurface. What lay beneath the surface, and would they ever be safe again? The chaos unfolded like wildfire, quick and fierce. One moment Jake was lunging, the next he was grappling with the officer, both of them crashing down onto the pavement. Linda's chest tightened as fear clawed at her throat. She couldn't process what was happening. "Get away from him!" she screamed, her voice veering wildly between maternal instinct and sheer terror. Her heart pounded against her ribs, the twins tightening their grip around her waist, their little bodies quivering with shock. The crowd surged forward, captivated by the spectacle, a grotesque dance of curiosity and horror. Faces twisted in disbelief, mouths gaped, and phones flickered as people recorded the chaos. Every click, every flash, felt like a stab in the heart. They were all witnesses now. A second officer joined the fray, tackling Jake to the ground. "Stop resisting!" he barked, voice heavy with authority. But Jake was relentless, thrashing about with a wildness that sent shivers down Linda's spine. She could see the desperation in his eyes, the raw fear that twisted his features into a mask of anger and confusion. "Jake, please. Just comply," Linda begged, stepping closer despite the police forming a barrier. Every ounce of her wanted to reach out, to pull him back from the edge of the abyss he was teetering on. "Save your breath," he shot back, voice laced with a wild energy. "You don't know what you're asking for." He grunted as they tried to secure him with cuffs, his strength surprising even the officers. In those frantic moments, an unsettling realization gnawed at her. What if Jake was right about the truth? What truth? She could feel the weight of the eyes around her, judging, questioning, dissecting their life together. What were they witnessing? And did they understand how far Jake would go if pushed? The officer finally managed to secure Jake, pulling him onto his knees, while the crowd erupted in a crescendo of gasps and whispers. Linda's heart dropped as she caught a glimpse of the fear spread in the twins' eyes. They didn't understand what was happening, they only felt the storm brewing around them. The lead officer turned to Linda, his expression softening. "Ma'am, can you take your children away? It's not safe here." "No. I need to be with him, I need to know he's okay." She felt raw, trapped between a mother's need to protect her children and a desperate urge to reach Jake. In an instant, she noticed a flicker behind the officer's eyes, a doubt mingling with empathy. He stood firm, but Linda could see uncertainty. "Ma'am, we need to de-escalate this," he urged, but she was already shaking her head, impatience boiling within her. "Something's not right," she yelled back. "He's not a threat. He just needs to talk." The air grew thick with tension as the officer paused, considering her words carefully. Would they really believe her? Could anyone really understand the layers that twisted through their lives? Then, out of nowhere, a voice cut through the chaos. Her friend Sarah, pushing through the thrumming bodies. Linda. You need to get them away. Now. This is getting out of hand. Sarah. Linda shouted, but she was already too close, too tangled in the madness. Sarah grabbed her elbow, urging her back. You can't help him here. Just come, this will only make it worse. Jake lifted his head, exhaustion blanketing him as he caught her gaze. Don't listen to them. They don't know. His words were swallowed by the frantic clamor. Linda's heartbeat quickened. What was he trying to say? Please, I'm not leaving him. She cried, but Sarah pulled her away, the twins now securely hidden against her chest. Before she knew it, the distance between them grew. Linda felt helpless, powerless to bridge the gap forming between her life and the man she still loved. Around her, the crowd thinned, eyes glued as they captured the spectacle, and the sirens wailed in the distance, a haunting reminder of the impending storm. She could taste the impending dread. What was Jake hiding, and how would it all come crashing down? As the officers began to escort him away, she felt the ice-cold finger of fate trace her spine. And in that moment, all she could think was, would the truth finally shatter them all? The world around Linda spun as she stumbled backward, her focus blurring at the edges while she tried to hold on to the fleeting image of Jake being led away. The grip of the twins tightened, tiny fingers digging into her sides as if sensing their mother's turmoil. Sarah pulled her further back, away from the chaos, but Linda felt an icy dread bury itself deep in her gut. Let me go. She yelled, her voice cracking under the pressure, desperate to return to him. She could still see Jake's eyes haunted yet pleading, like he was trying to convey something vital, something she missed. Linda, please. Sarah's grip tightened, securing her away from the fray. You can't help him like this. They what? They'll hurt him. Linda interrupted, her eyes wild. You don't understand. I know him. He wouldn't hurt anyone. The crowd watched, entranced, murmurs bubbling among the onlookers. Shadows dipped across the faces, some sympathetic, others judging. A few people exchanged shifty glances, whispering behind their hands like they held the answers. Jake's shouts faded as he was shoved into the back of a police car, the echoes of his frantic voice swallowed by the roar of the crowd. Linda's breath hitched, she wanted to push through everyone and scream his name. But the harsh reality filtered in. If she did, she would lose her children, which was a cost too high to bear. A short distance away, she noticed another figure, one she hadn't seen before, lurking in the edges of the crowd. A tall man with dark sunglasses and an unfamiliar air about him. He stood apart, as if he was studying them, his focus zeroed in on her. A chill washed over her. Who was he? Who's that? Linda whispered, pulling away from Sarah, her instincts setting her on edge. I don't know, Sarah replied, glancing back at the man. But let us go, Linda. Now. The officer returned to speak with the onlookers, their dialogue ingested by the cacophony swirling around. The sirens blared, drowning the whispers and sealing off the world outside of this chaotic scene. Linda felt her heart sink deeper into her stomach as she caught a glimpse of Jake again, his silhouette hunched and defeated. The sight tugged at her soul. How did it come to this? Linda. Sarah urged. We really have to go. But instead of moving, Linda stood rooted. The reality was colliding with her perceptions. The man at the edge was still there, every so often tilting his head as if trying to decipher her. Jake! She cried out, voice laden with both love and panic. He looked up, eyes wide with a desperate recognition that sent shockwaves racing through her. Linda, you have to dig deeper. He shouted, but the officer's hand darted out to silence him. Enough. Panic morphed into an insatiable need to understand. Linda stared at Jake, her heart splintering with every second he remained behind those cold metal bars. The truth was tangled and dark, and Jake had been carrying it alone. What was it that he needed her to discover? As the police car started to pull away, something within her ignited, a fierce determination taking root. She couldn't let this be the end, not like this. She had to follow the thread, every heartbeat whispering the urgency of the moment, but before she could turn, the figure from the edge stepped forward, his intent clear as he approached Linda with purpose. "Do you want to know the truth?" His voice was low and steady, cutting through the noise of the crowd like a knife. Linda's breath caught in her throat. What truth? Was he connected to Jake, or was he just another curious bystander? As Sarah pulled her closer, every instinct screamed to run. But something deeper urged her to listen. "Because if you seek it," he warned, "it will change everything." The words hung heavy between them, swirling with unspoken dread. Could she handle it? Would finding out lead to salvation or ruin? With the weight of that question bearing down on her, Linda's eyes darted back to the retreating police car. What could he mean? What did she not know? And with the dusk settling in around them, the growing tension thickened, leaving Linda teetering on the edge of the unknown. Could she unearth the truth before the world collided with her in ways she never imagined? Linda felt the air thicken around them, a heavy shroud layered with unanswered questions. The man's presence was electric, charged with a sense of foreboding that wrapped around her like a vice. She could hardly process the tumult of emotions boiling in her chest. "Tell me." Her voice trembled, desperation clawing at her. "What truth? What do you know about Jake?" He leaned in slightly, as if the crowd's chaos was nothing but a distant hum. "I know that your husband is not who you think he is, not anymore." There was a gravity in his words that made her stomach lurch. Linda's heart raced. "What do you mean? You have to be specific." "You should have listened to the whispers in the shadows," he replied, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "Those times, and trust me, there have been many when he seemed off, when he acted different. That was the real Jake being pushed away, buried underneath layers of darkness." His gaze pierced through the mayhem and right into her soul, the world around them blurred into a distant murmur. All she could hear were his words, each syllable lashing at her like icy rain. Jake was her anchor in an otherwise stormy life. He was the one she had promised to love no matter what. What could have shattered that? "Why are you telling me this?" She fought to keep her voice steady, but it quaked like a leaf in a tempest. "Who are you?" He straightened, adjusting his sunglasses, then with a pointed glance, he said, "I'm someone who wants you to open your eyes, to look beyond the surface. Jake's been caught in a web from which he has no way out. Without your help, he'll only sink deeper." Just then, Sarah tugged at Linda's arm, pulling her closer. "We need to go. Now." She was more frantic now, fear anchoring her to reality. What if he's right? Linda whispered, torn between the thrill of potential answers and the weight of the unknown. She shot a glance at Jake's police vehicle now rolling further away, his figure becoming more abstract with each foot it traveled. "Listen to me." The man pressed, his voice urgent. "I have information you can't ignore. There are forces at play that could destroy your family, a darkness that wants to consume him and you." Suddenly, her heart thundered with panic. Who was this man? What did he know about Jake that she didn't? What kind of forces? She managed to choke out. "Let's just say, not everything is as it seems," he murmured, glancing over his shoulder. "Meet me tonight at the old pier, and I'll show you the first thread you need to pull." "Linda." Sarah shook her, grounding her. "This isn't safe." But Linda felt a mixture of curiosity and dread. She didn't trust this stranger, but he held the keys to a door she couldn't help but want to open. If Jake was in danger, and this man had the means to help, could she really afford to miss this chance? She hesitated as time seemed to stretch, the police car disappearing completely as it turned onto a distant road. "I'll come." The words slipped from her mouth before she could take them back. "You'll uncover the truth," he said, satisfaction blooming on his face. "But it will come at a price." With that, He stepped back into the shadow, blending into the crowd as if he never existed. Linda felt the world pull at her feet, her reality unraveling with each moment. What had she just agreed to? Her pulse raced, her chest tightening. She needed answers, but now she was standing on the edge of a deadly precipice. What had she just thrown herself into? As Sarah continued to tug at her, panic radiated from her friend. Please don't do this. We need to get back to the twins. But all Linda could think about was Jake. The voice of the stranger echoed in her mind. What truth awaited her? Would searching for answers lead her to safety or destruction? Sarah, I have to find out. I have to help him. With every nerve on high alert, she felt the world around her slide into darkness as dread enveloped her. The night was closing in fast, drawing her closer to a confrontation she never saw coming. Could she really face the truth? Next chapter lurked beneath the surface. Waiting, what was the danger Jake faced, and could she unravel it before it consumed everything? As the sun dipped below the horizon, shadows wrapped around the old pier. Linda breathed in the salty air, feeling the mix of anxiety and urgency clench her stomach. The chaotic whirlwind of the airport reunion felt like a distant nightmare. Here, the creeping dread was palpable, waiting to swallow her whole. Stay close, she urged the twins, keeping them tucked at her side. Their wide eyes mirrored her own anxiety, innocent confusion etched in their young faces. The moonlight danced across the water, illuminating the figure that waited patiently at the edge of the pier. He leaned against the railing, arms crossed, exuding a sense of calm that clashed with Linda's inner turmoil. As she approached, the whispers of the wind carried her doubts, but determination steeled her resolve. You came, he said, his tone low. I wasn't sure you would. I need to know what you know about Jake, she replied, her voice firmer than she felt. What is going on? Why did you bring me here? Because you need to see the truth, Linda. He unhooked his arms and straightened, eyes glinting beneath the moonlight. Jake's been caught up in something darker than you can imagine. I'm here to help you untangle it. What do you mean? Just tell me. The urgency in her voice echoed the heartbeat thudding in her chest. The man sighed, glancing toward the water. Jake's past isn't just messy, it's dangerous. He was involved in something illegal that could return to haunt him. There are people out there who expect things from him. Linda's heart raced, memories of Jake's anger and the secrets that once seemed lightweight crashing over her like a tidal wave. Why didn't he tell me? The man remained silent, the weight of his gaze heavy. Because he thought he was protecting you. But in doing so, he only kept you in the dark. A chill crept up her spine. Is he safe? Are the twins safe? He nodded slowly, though uncertainty flickered in his eyes. For now. But if Jake doesn't confront his past, it could all break loose. They could come after what he holds dear, which includes you and the children. The implications were too immense for her to grasp fully. What do I have to do? She asked, fearing the answer yet needing it desperately. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a grave whisper. Gather evidence of his past, find out who he was truly involved with. Only then can you confront him about the darkness he is hiding. Panic surged through Linda. Gather evidence? I don't even know where to start. Boyd, he replied. He is the key to everything, the nexus of Jake's troubles. If you find Boyd, you'll find the truth you're looking for. Boyd, she repeated, committing the name to memory. Where do I find him? His last known location was a bar on the outskirts of town. But be cautious, he is tied to shady dealings, and he doesn't play nice, he warned, a note of concern creeping into his voice. As hope danced delicately in her chest, the urgency in her heart hum echoed louder. I will do this, for Jake and for the kids, she declared, her voice imbuing strength into her wavering spirit. You have to move quickly, Linda, he urged, urgency dampening the air. I'll be watching from the sidelines, but keep your twins close. You're going to need them. In that moment of determination, she realized she couldn't let fear win. With newfound resolve, she turned and started back toward the road, her heart pounding as she prepared for the confrontation ahead. The twins walked beside her, and she smiled down at them, determined to face whatever shadows lay ahead. They were small steps, but they were hers together. They would uncover Jake's truth. Later that night, Linda sat at the bar, adrenaline rushing through her. Nervously, she scanned the neon-lit room, searching for any sign of Boyd. The faces of strangers clouded in darkness held countless secrets, but none felt familiar. Just as uncertainty clawed at her, she spotted a figure slouched against the far wall, his demeanor testing the shadows. Was this the man she'd come to confront? Just breathe, she whispered to herself, eyes fixed on Boyd as determination surged. Mom, are we okay? The little girl asked, voice trembling. We're okay, sweetie, Linda assured, squeezing her daughter's hand tightly. She couldn't falter, not now. Each heartbeat echoed a promise to keep them safe. As she approached, she felt the weight of the moment press down around her. Whatever truth Boyd held would determine the fate of her family. It wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to fight for the love they all deserved and uncover the dark web Jake had spun. And she was ready to embrace whatever came next. With that, she squared her shoulders, stepping forward into the unknown, ready to follow the thread that could unravel it all. This is the moment. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any exclusive content. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild adventure. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.